Well, welcome back, everyone. As you're finishing your lunches today, I'd like to welcome you back from your workshops. Are you guys enjoying the workshops? Yeah? The ones I've been to have been great, so thank you to all the speakers. For those of you who were not here in the morning session, my name is Denise Shields, and I have the pleasure of serving as the chair of the board of directors for the mighty fine organization of California Council for Excellence. Yay, exactly. We want to welcome you to our 20th annual anniversary Best Practices Awards Conference, which is exciting for us. And later, following lunch, we'll be awarding all the awards that your organizations, many of your organizations have been working so hard on for this last year, and also on your Baldridge and Team Excellence Award journeys. This is our collective opportunity to celebrate these organizations and their accomplishments and congratulate them on their achievements. But first, entertain you while you're dining. We have a very special guest. You tell me it's informational, it's educational, it's not entertaining. Okay, I'll let you be the judge of that. We have a very special guest speaker while you're finishing your lunch, and his name is Fowler. Casey is the Director of Patient Experience at Adventist Health. Fowler joined Adventist Health Corporate Office earlier this year to implement experience design and strategies across a 19 hospital-wide system. He went there after serving as Adventist Health Central Valley Network since 2003, committed to maximizing the experience of patients and the workforce at a system that seeks to be recognized as the best place to work, the best place to receive care, and the best place to practice medicine. Fowler is a nationally recognized public speaker, frequently requested as an instructor. He is highly imaginative, outrageously curious, and always seeks to provide the best experience to others. And I'd like you now to sit back and enjoy Mr. Fowler, the e-ticket intentional experience design.
You know, if they're going to play this music, it comes up and says, all the carousels have got to be lifting your glasses with water. Doing the whole fountain thing that they do at Disney California Adventure. Wow, I hope this is entertaining after that introduction. So I get to talk to you today about experience design and doing it in an intentional way. And I'm going to keep walking back here because this is where I have my notes, but I really don't like to stand behind a podium, so I hope you'll understand that I don't want to stand behind the podium. So what is this whole e-ticket thing? Does everybody in this room know what an e-ticket is? Okay, because you know, there are some folks I talk to, and probably some folks who are in the room today, who weren't born when the e-ticket went away. They went away in 1983, so you know, if you're younger than that, it's more than just something you use to get on an airplane. Although you'll notice that at Disney, it never was an e-ticket. That's how we all refer to it. It was an e-coupon. And this one I think must have been from like 1962. Can you imagine in 1962 paying 50 cents for a single attraction at Disneyland? And I say that because there was no Tiki Room in Adventureland, and it just celebrated an anniversary. Obviously no Space Mountain, but that didn't happen until 1977. And the fact that at this point in time, the trains were still an e-ticket ride. And of course, that eventually was no longer an e-ticket ride. But why do we talk about an e-ticket, and why do we talk specifically about being intentional about why we do all of this? Well, if you go to the works of Joe Pine and Jim Gilmore, these are the guys who wrote the book, The Experience Economy. And if you haven't read The Experience Economy, you ought to read The Experience Economy. If you haven't watched Joe Pine's TED Talk from like 2007, you ought to watch that. If I had had half a day, we'd have had those things in here as well. But they talk about the importance of experience being so engaging that our customers can't help but pay attention and pay up. Why do we pay extra for a cup of coffee at Starbucks as opposed to right next door where it may cost $1 less? Because of the experience we get going into Starbucks. By the way, when you do this work too long, you take field trips to Starbucks. I dragged my poor wife down from Visalia on Sunday so we could check out the new Starbucks at downtown Disney. It just opened last week, so I wanted to be there during the first week. And trust me, it was worth it. You know it's Anaheim as soon as you walk in. But most importantly, they've got this interactive chalkboard that kids can play out. They can draw on this video screen and draw things and all of that. But if you're sitting in front of that chalkboard for too long, you will find a chalk drawing of you on that screen. That's how cool it is. I could have sat there for hours instead of going into a theme park. In fact, I did. Not hours, but did that instead of going into a theme park. It's kind of cool, you know, Pirates of the Caribbean actually today is the 47th anniversary of Pirates of the Caribbean. And Pirates of the Caribbean is not on that e-ticket that we had up there. So we know that that's at least 47 years old, maybe 48, 49, 50. So why intentional? John Lennon said it, life is what happens to you while you're busy making other plans. If we're not intentional in the experiences that we create, we shouldn't be surprised with the results that we get. I was interviewed recently for an article, and as I was talking to the reporter, I said, you know, the reality is we're providing experiences in every interaction. The question is it a good experience, is it a bad experience? Is it the experience that we wanted somebody to have or not? And if we haven't defined what that experience looks like, and of course Disney does on every one of those rides, they know exactly what they want it to look like for you, but then we shouldn't be surprised with the results that we get. You know, on his last album, George Harrison said, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. It's the same thing. If you don't work with intention, you shouldn't be surprised by the results that you get. This guy, on the other hand, said to us, you can't just ask customers what they want and then try to give that to them. By the time you get it built, they'll want something new. How many of us have had that experience where we're so busy trying to figure it out that we never get there? They're always ahead of us. And of course, we're going to talk about e-tickets. We've got to talk about this guy. He says you don't build it for yourself. You know what people want, and you build it for them. And so you figure out what they want, or what they're going to want, if you take the Steve Jobs quote and mix it in there, and you build out 2 or 3 years, because we don't ever get there as soon as we think we're going to do it. And then this gentleman, Harry Hertz, the Director Emeritus of the Baldrige Program, tells us from the outside it appears effortless. From the inside, everything is intentional. So if we're trying to create experiences, if experiences in this economy is what makes us willing to pay more for a product, for those of us in healthcare, if it's what makes more people want to come and utilize our services, then we've got to be intentionally creating the experience that we're putting out there. Because every day that we're not intentional in what we're doing, something else is going on, and we kind of wonder what it is. So back to that e-ticket. So this is what a Disneyland e-ticket looks like, circa 1962, 1963. You had your 5 different lands, Main Street, Tomorrowland, Fantasyland, Frontier, Adventureland. So it's pre-New Orleans Square, it's pre-Critter Country, Bear Country, all of that kind of stuff. I'd like to suggest to you that this is what our ticket looks like. Not for Disneyland, which you notice has that hub in the center and then the lands all around it. So all of those lands that were on there ended up on there. But instead, this is what our Experience Land ticket looks like. This is our e-ticket for experience. And first we want to theme our experience, harmonize positive cues, eliminate the negative cues, mix in memorabilia, and engage all 5 senses. And again, all props to Pine and Gilmore for coming up with this in the experience economy. So if that's what our ticket looks like, perhaps this is what Experience Land looks like. So down at the bottom there, you've got that whole idea of theme. You've got to come in through theme. You want to theme the experience in a way that people feel good about the way everything interacts. You know, Disneyland, the happiest place on earth. Starbucks is a 3rd place for us to go to. Businesses create these themes. Sometimes they're very public about them. Sometimes they're very, very quiet about them. We visited on an expedition a place in Chicago that you would not have known what the theme of the business was unless you got backstage at the business. But everybody in the business was experiencing that theme, even though it wasn't overly shared with them. So then we want to harmonize positive cues. What you see there is the room key for a hotel in Orange County matched up with the carpet at the same hotel. So as you're walking down the hall, you're seeing that same thing, and it just gives you that sense that, wow, they matched this up? They've got it figured out, don't they? And this place really does. Now, eliminate negative cues. That's what that E stands for. And having said nice things about Starbucks, walking down the street and seeing that sign, where the O's were pulled out of the cup, was just peeling apart. If you saw that, is that the Starbucks that you want to go into? Now, the flip side of the sign looked great. I don't know what it was coming from one direction, and I'm sure because it was a Starbucks that it was fixed the next day, right? But you see it, you go, wow, that's kind of different. Now, I mentioned the one at Disneyland, at downtown Disney. Great, amazing place. We'll talk a little bit more about Starbucks in just a second, because I think they've done a great job, actually, of creating coffee as theater, where you can go into certain Starbucks, and just the way it all comes together, you go, this is just absolutely incredible. We want to mix in memorabilia. Some of the folks in the room may recall when we were given batons. We had seen a presentation, and at the end of the presentation, we were each given a baton, because part of the presentation was talking about the importance of leadership and the importance of conductors. And we were actually watching a TED Talk, Ben Zander, talking about being a conductor. And part of what he talked about is the day that he realized that though he was the person who was leading all of the music, and the baton was his instrument, he was the only member of the orchestra who never made a sound. But without his work, the orchestra was not going to sound as good as it otherwise might. And the important thing, I think, when you talk about mixing in memorabilia as you're creating an experience, is that you want to think about the emotional piece. What do I mean by that? I mean, a lot of times we're really good as business people at handing stuff out that has our name on it, right? Because we want people to remember who we are. Think about doing it in such a way that you create an emotional connection with what you give them, so though your name may not even be on it, every time they see it, they think about where they got it from. I think that's ultimately about the coolest thing you can give somebody, is a piece of memorabilia that they remember that every time. And as I get to the last piece of experience land here, the idea of engaging all five senses, it's kind of hard to tell what that is right there, but that actually is a piece of memorabilia that I received at the end of a devotional thought one day. And it's a copper ball. And we were talking about the importance of remaining true to our principles, and again, we were talking about conducting and all of this type of thing, and you're going, so how does that engage all five senses? Because they had been stored in a freezer, and so they were given to us. We were talking about the conducting properties of copper. And so when these were handed to us, those of us that were there, we each got this frozen ball that we then rubbed between our hands to see how fast we could warm it back up. And so that sense of touch was involved in it. Think about setting up rooms where you control the scent that's in the room, where you use lighting to get darker or brighter, to change the color of a wall. Think about the ways that you can engage somebody's sense of taste. And the more we do that, again, the more we create those memories, the more we're then able, with that memorabilia that we perhaps give to somebody, to really create an impression and an experience that lasts long after the actual time that we're together with that person. At one point in time I had in this, and then I was cutting it back the other day, I had a picture of a shelf in my office where it's got all of this memorabilia from different things that I've been to and that have been given to me and that I've bought and all of this kind of thing. And I would say probably a third of it, you could tell just walking into my office where it's from. The other 2/3 are things that somebody's given me or that I picked up, mean nothing necessarily to anybody else, but when somebody sees it there, they go, so what's this? You get that chance to tell the story. And when you tell the story, you're doing it in a way that brings them into what you experienced. And we talk about word of mouth. How incredible is that? That somebody tells your story in a way that makes other people go, wow, I want to be a part of that. I want to be exposed to that. I want to have that. I conducted a meeting last week that a week and a half before doing the meeting, we sent out a box, and the box was full of toys. The theme of the meeting was games. And people were given challenges that they had to do. They had to take pictures of sculptures that they made out of little cornstarch noodles that you stick together with water. When they got to the meeting, they had to complete a quest, or they couldn't get the key to get in the room. Let's see, what else did we do as part of that? Oh yeah, I made money with the president of our corporation on it. That if they participated well, they got money so they could auction off toys at the end of it. Nothing that went out of that meeting had our name on it. Everything about it. It meant to be mindful in reminding them of the importance of utilizing games in the work that we do. And that'd be a whole other topic for a whole other day, but if you, again, go out there and see what's happening in the use of game strategies, game simulations, gaming, and gamification in creating experiences both for our employees as we train them, as well as for our customers as they participate in the offerings that we have. So you bring all of those things together and they create for you this idea of experience land. Theme that experience, harmonize your positive cues, eliminate the negative cues, mix in memorabilia, and finally engage all 5 senses because that just ups the memory. Go out and see experience land. It was wonderful to hear the comment this morning about study best practices in other industries because that's incredibly important. And we actually go on experience expeditions where we take people out and we study best practices and best principles, and sometimes places where there's opportunities for improvement in the practices and principles that a business may operate under. And you spend a day doing that, or 2 days doing that, or 3 days doing it, and at the end of that time you get it. 3 years ago we led a 60-person experience. I say we, it really was Paula who's back at the table back here. Paula's here somewhere, right? Who made it all happen. Paula is now an experienced producer, did I hear, in the Central Valley Network. Congratulations. And she made it all happen for me for a long time. And at the end of the day of doing this, we were going back to another event at one of our hospitals. And as we got out of the bus, I had somebody who had been on the experience with us that day come up to me and go, so we're supposed to do all of this stuff, right? He started pointing to things going, so this is out of theme, and this is out of theme, and this is out of theme, and this is out of theme. And it was just fantastic and fascinating to see how taking people out and giving them that chance to see best principles. And when we do it, we actually talk about, we're going to see best practices, but pull out of those the best principles. What is it that this business is doing? And how are they doing it? And then how can we take that back into our business, no matter what that business may be? And there's great people out there that can help you to go on these. We've had some great folks that we've worked with. And it's good to have somebody that understands all of the aspects of experience design and the experience economy that helps you with that. Because there's a lot of planning that actually goes into making it happen. So I'm wondering, I think it's experiment time. It's awfully quiet out there. So can I get a show of hands? Who's willing to help me out? Can I get a show of lots more hands? You know, if I don't get all of the hands up, I'm going to have them play. No, every table's going to do it. It's just a question of how long it takes you to agree to do it. And remember, I am what stands between you and dessert. There we go. That's I could have them do the music, and we can do jazz hands. For this first thought experiment, it's going to take the use of one of your hands, up to 5 fingers. On the next slide, 5 businesses: Disneyland, American Girl, Build-A-Bear, Lego, and Chuck E. Cheese. Quick show of hands of those 5 items. How many of them are you familiar with? I'm seeing a lot of 5s. I'm seeing a couple of 3s. I'm seeing, okay, I see some 4s. So everybody's familiar with at least one of them, right? Oh, did I say put your hands down? Okay, now here's the challenging part. I need you to think. I need you to think which one of those 5 experiences, if you had to pick a favorite, would be your favorite. And then I want you to turn to the person next to you and please share with them which one is your favorite and why it's your favorite. Okay. Do you know what's cool about that? And I don't know if you did, how many smiles did you see as you were taking pictures, as people were talking about their favorite experiences? Isn't it amazing that as we think about what it is that makes one of these things our favorite experience, we can't help but smile. It brings back positive memories. Now, if I were to ask you which was your least favorite, first my guess would be there'd be an overwhelming choice in the room. I am not slandering anybody, but it's just a guess. But we would see exactly the opposite, although there may be some smiles as you talk about specific ball pit memories. So can I double up on difficulty with you for the next challenge? Okay. Going to take 2 hands. There's 10 businesses up here. Cirque du Soleil, the Ritz-Carlton, Converse, but we're not just talking Converse, we're talking Converse shoes that you can go online and you can personalize for yourself and get delivered to your house in 3 weeks. Ed DeBevick's, Mrs. Knott's Chicken Restaurant, Apple Store, Zappos, Las Vegas, Lush Fresh Handmade Cosmetics, and Starbucks Coffee. And not just Starbucks Coffee, but I'm talking about Clover Brewed Starbucks Coffee, where they actually make your coffee based upon your choice of bean. They grind up the exact amount of beans that you need for that. They heat the water to the exact temperature that you need. And your cup, and only your cup, is brewed by a specifically trained barista on a specifically trained machine. So how many of those 10 are you familiar with? So I see some 6s, some 7s, some 8s, some 9s, from people I've dragged to see different experiences. And do the same thing really quickly. Turn to the person next to you, share with them why your favorite experience is your favorite experience. You might turn in the other direction this time if your table is full. And I'm sorry to do this, but we're running out of time, so I'm going to have to pull you back up here again. You know, when we talk about creating experiences, again, if you go back to the work of Pine and Gilmore, you hear about the word authenticity. How authentic are we in creating the experience? And out of those businesses, the two in the center there, Ed DeBevick's, anybody familiar with that? Okay. Yeah, so a few folks where basically it's a restaurant, kind of a 50s diner, right? Yeah. But everybody that's in there is playing a character. They're creating that mindset of being in the 1950s in a diner, and you know that's the experience you're going in for. The flip side, I'm not meaning to pick on Knott's Berry Farm or Mrs. Knott's Chicken Pie Shop, but my wife and I went there for dinner or for breakfast not too long ago. And you know how you do inauthentic at Mrs. Knott's Chicken Pie Shop? Have Smucker's jam on the table. Smucker's has bought Knott's Berry products. Right, and you go in and you go, their own jam is so bad, they're serving somebody else. And it's great jam. Smucker's jam is good jam. The food was good, but it's just one of those things you look at and you go, wow, if I were trying to eliminate negative cues, I'd start with the jam. But the other thing you start to see on some of these, I pointed out the Starbucks thing first because I felt bad about what I said about them earlier, but secondarily because that's the ultimate when you start talking about experience design. They've got this thing set up that they can customize your exact drink for you exactly the way you want it. I have no doubt they probably can mix beans and do all of this kind of thing. You go into, you do the Converse thing. You go online and you go through a multi-step process and you can make the most god-awful looking pair of shoes you have ever seen, and they'll ship them to you. And then you got to wear them. But if you want to talk to a group of people about customization, which is our next step, you put that website up and you start going through it, and they get it. The Apple Store keeps track of you in ways you wouldn't believe, especially if you've got an iPhone and walk inside, and they know exactly where you are and exactly what you're looking at. And of course, Zappos, if you buy from them, they keep track of everything. We heard earlier about the Ritz-Carlton. The Ritz-Carlton, and they're kind of kings at this, is they've got that wonderful Mystique program where they can track every one of your personal preferences. And so if you go into a Ritz-Carlton today and throw away a candy wrapper, they will keep track of that, and that candy may be waiting for you at the next hotel because they know you like it. And that is the next step in experiences. Okay, how many people just went, that's really scary? And how many people went, how do I get that software for my business? Exactly. I mean, wouldn't that be incredibly cool to be able to track exactly what your customers want and be able to personalize the experience? And that's what's happening in this world. Because technology makes it available, and because we're all getting exposed to it on a daily basis. If you go to Amazon today and you're signed in, they're going to have recommendations that are scary for you, right? Based upon what you've searched for. There's a book that came out, I think, last week, and I think the name is The Decoded Company, and it's all about taking care of our employees the way that Amazon and other customizing businesses take care of their customers. Because that's what we need to do, is keep our employees that happy and keep our employees engaged, which you heard about this morning. So we want to individualize experience, not just have organizational themes and have all of this stuff, but we want to make it an experience that is unique to every person that we're interacting with. Because we each have preferences. whether it is our favorite color. You know, I come from the hospital background, so imagine being able to offer a patient coming in, you know, we've got 4 choices for your hospital gown or for your hospital pajamas. Which would you prefer? And would you like the one that what was that? Would you like the one that opens in the back or not? No, we're not going there. No. But I learned a huge lesson about 3 years ago. We had heard a lot of things at the organization I was with about customization. How do we customize the experience for each person? And so we started using SurveyMonkey, and we started asking people ahead of meetings, what's your favorite beverage? What's your favorite color? What's your favorite quote? This is where Paula came in. She's making bookmarks for 60 people that each had their favorite quote on them. But here's what we learned. What's your favorite outdoor snack is not a good question when you've got 60 people coming to a meeting, and some of them like a snack that you can only get at a store 40 miles away. And so somebody wanted hummus and pita chips. Not a bad snack. It's a healthy snack, right? Shelf-stable hummus. Exactly. Which is available at Cost Plus World Market. I found out after going to a lot of other stores in those little squeezable pouches, so you get them a bag of pita chips, you can get them the hummus, and the person was just amazed. Somebody else, it was they liked dried mangoes, but only the kinds you get at Costco. So when we were intending to spend $1 a person, we got to spend $13 on a bag of mangoes because everybody got exactly what they wanted. Somebody else was a certain power bar that you have to go to Whole Foods for, which here, not a problem. When you're in Hanford, California, 40 miles to Fresno. It was an entire day that, again, my poor wife and I spent driving all over the place to make sure everybody. But at that event, people were dumbfounded. We had one gentleman in tears because his favorite quote was something his father had said. We had somebody else that we had to explain it to because she thought everybody liked the same quote she did. But between when we sent that survey out and when the meeting was actually held, 2 things happened. Number one, we decided we wanted to provide lunch. And the intent was that we were going to just go buy a bunch of sandwiches at Subway, put them out, and everybody would get what they wanted. And I got to attend a meeting at Frog Design in San Francisco, where I heard the phrase curated customization, where you start with a list, and based on that list, you work your way down. And so we still got Subway, but we sent out another SurveyMonkey, and we said, we're doing lunch. Which of these 4 kinds of sandwiches would you like? And offered 4 of the main selections. Which of these 6 types of bread would you like? Which of these cheeses would you like? Out of these 10 condiments, check every one that you'd like to have on your sandwich. You've got 6, I think it was 4 options for your side, you know, different kinds of chips and that kind of thing. Here's your beverage choices, and I think we had a dessert selection. If I'm not mistaken, we had about 50 people at this meeting. All 50 of them got exactly what they wanted for lunch. The only people that didn't get exactly what they wanted were the people that didn't complete the survey, and then they got from the extra, we bought these, pick the one that you want out of the stack. So they're eating, and we had talked about the boxes, and they're happy about the boxes. And don't do that. And then we brought in lunch, and they were happy about the lunch. Well, the lunch was curated. The boxes were customized. The lunch was customized, but it was customized based upon a curated list. This, for me, probably my biggest lesson out of the last 4 or 5 years. Curate the thing. But then I sat down with them and I said, do you understand that before you checked the first box, you had 854,000 combinations you could have selected for lunch? And out of 854,000 combinations, we got your lunch just the way you wanted it. So when we're trying to create experiences, learning the importance of customized curation and utilizing the technology that's out there to be able to track what people like and how they like it and all of that type of thing is ultimately, that is the e-ticket in all of this. Disney is expanding out their magic bands. We got to experience this last fall. It was your room key if you were staying on site. It's how you got into the theme parks. If you wanted to, you could have a credit card linked to it, and you could make charges on it. It held your fast passes, which you could do on an app on your iPhone, which they just upgraded this morning, by the way. When fully realized, your kid walks in to meet a princess, and the princess knows it's your child's birthday. They know your child by name. You know, whatever information you're willing to share, and think about how much cooler and, yes, spookier that experience can become. But, you know, it's going to be an option that you will have. Disney has spent over $1 billion on the Magic Band program. Do you think they don't get how important experience is and customizing and personalizing? They were big in the last 15, 20 years at randomizing experiences. You know, so rides were not exactly the same anymore. The new Star Tours has 54 different combinations that you can go through on it. that are randomly selected as you go through. Even some of the old C-ticket rides, Peter Pan. Peter says different things when you first enter the ride and fly off into Neverland now, which is not what happened when I first went back in the 1960s. It was the same thing every time. We're demanding bigger experiences, different experiences, and personalized experiences. And it's why it's so incredibly important that we, as people who want to be on the top of our industry, are out there looking for those opportunities to do so. So I've got a son who's a physicist, and he reminds me way too much of Sheldon Cooper on The Big Bang Theory. So when I put this slide together, I said, this sounds like the title of an episode of The Big Bang Theory. And so for me, this is what I kind of looked at and called the curated vector iteration. It's the idea of taking experience economy principles, the concept of theme, the concept of authenticity, which Pine and Gilmore would talk to you about if they were here today. The idea of making sure that we customize to everybody the experience that they're having. Taking that and being intentional in the way that we curate it, gathering information, saving that data, utilizing it to make amazing experiences. And the vector you get of those two lines hitting each other is what we used to kind of call brand loyalty. People wouldn't go anyplace else because of the experience they have with us. I don't know, I'm in healthcare and I'm kind of going, I'd like a different phrase than that. And so I decided instead I'd like it to be transformational relationships. We're together in this. We're creating amazing experiences, and people don't want to go anyplace else because of what we've done. So I would take that e-ticket, I would wrap it up in the concept of curated relationships, and to me, when that happens, that is your bazinga moment. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Casey. Another round of applause for our guest speaker. And Jareen, your life must be very rich with all these experiences you have. Married to Casey Fowler. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. The schedule right now is we're going to take a break. One of the feedback we got last year from our surveys is that even though we're going to sessions, we're sitting together during meals, there was more need to chat, a network together. So we thought instead of staying seated for hours on end, we'd give you a chance to stretch and have dessert out near the pool. Enjoy some fresh air and enjoy the opportunity to network over your dessert. We'll come back into the ballroom at 1:45 and begin the award ceremony. Have fun.